Megalopolis is a bad movie. I cannot believe how much time I wasted trying to understand the context of this movie. This apparently is supposed to be Francis Ford Coppola's return to making films. Yes, the same person that made Apocalypse Now and The Godfather. Somehow he has made a movie worse than Jack, that Robin Williams movie where he acts like a 10-year-old boy. And that's only based on entertainment value. I'd rather watch that movie again. I happen to be a fan of cringe nowadays. Megalopolis is not cringe. It's boring. The story is a boring mess. Every character is forgettable and every piece of visual effects and cinematography is jumbled up. I'm not gonna even give you a summary of the story because it fails to keep me intrigued and hooked. Every story has a hook, and this one doesn't. There is narration by Lawrence Fishburne, but it's like I'm being lectured about the fall of Rome, and Megalopolis is like a mirror of Rome. Adam Driver plays Caesar. Yes, that is literally his name. And he apparently has the power to stop time with a flick of his finger. And eventually has an affair with his wife Aubrey Plaza to get in bed with Natalie Emmanuel, who seems to understand his moral complexities. This reporter just so happens to be the daughter of Giancarlo Esposito's character, who is the mayor of Megalopolis, and Shia LaBeouf is in the movie, and he's trying to coup the Catalina Empire and their vision of a future for Megalopolis. Some strange events happen, such as a sex scandal, a satellite falls from space and creates a massive crater in the city. So many story beats happen in quick succession, and by the time the film goes to the credits I was left in bewilderment as to what the fuck was any of that. Maybe it's my ADHD, but I'm sorry to disappoint. I managed to understand Eternal Sunshine, and by a similar margin, Inception, without having to rack my mind on what was reflected in the story, because they were concise and to the point. I can't do that with Megalopolis because the writing doesn't establish a clear goal for the main character. What are his weaknesses, his ultimate goal, what keeps him going, will he live through this? None of that. It's all left to interpretation, and I apologize if I missed the point of that. And with so many things happening in the movie, I can't help but feel like the movie doesn't even know what theme or message it's trying to convey. To put this into perspective, I watched The Substance a week ago, and the story, the message, and the overall theme of the movie was precise and to the point. How is it that modern filmmakers can create inspiring and great narratives better than old, wrinkly has-beens who think they are clever and better at their craft than they are? Just because your story is pretentiously trying to be Arthur's doesn't make it good. This story is basically the Citizen Kane of modern movies, if I'm being kind. At worst it is the modern-day Moulin Rouge. Speaking of which, the cinematography is god-awful. It really is horrendous. Without being a complete chud about it, the camera work is inconsistent at times. There are many visual instances where the camera will position as a Dutch angle but somehow reverts itself to the other position. What is even the point of these? There are moments where the scene irises in after the transitional cut from the exterior. Sometimes it will even iris out before it even cuts to the transitional cut to the next shot. The iris corners stay on screen for 1 or 4 shots with no clear idea as to what visual is supposed to be conveyed in the scene, giving an almost fisheye lens mimicry. Seeing that makes me want to watch Poor Things over this. For a film that's trying to invoke that Art Deco direction for the city of Megalopolis, it doesn't convey any thematic reason or awe as earlier films that have the Art Deco aesthetic have had. There are moments of visual acid, moments where the characters get high or are drunk and their reality contorts out of control. Obviously I wasn't high for that shit, but it lacks any sort of weight. The actors just convulse on screen and the editing just makes the scene even worse. It's like whoever was in charge of the editing does not understand how being high works. It got to the point where it started acting more like a Baz Luhrmann movie. I also want to point out that during the scene where this character, Vesta Sweetwater, yes that is her name, is performing and the city is auctioning her to be their virgin sweetheart, and one moment has the actor put up his QR code and the camera films it right up front. Obviously, this code wasn't meant to be scanned by anyone watching this in a theater where phones are not allowed to be used, but I didn't watch this in the theater, so how could anyone not have the incentive to pull out their phone and scan the code when it is paused? I did it and it says thank you for your pledge, hugs and kisses, Vesta. Putting QR codes in your film is stupid, and unless you're selling something in your movie like a product or a scam website, you're essentially selling your audience out to a trend instead of being invested in your own product which you are selling. There's a scene, after the satellite crash, where Adam Driver is being interviewed, and in my copy, it is presented in the view of the theater with the aspect ratio scaled down, and a person in front of the screen asks him a question. Apparently, this scene was done with an actual IRL actor talking to the screen in certain screenings, which would have made as a sort of authentic theater experience. But not every theater did this, so the scene comes off again as incredibly shallow as those scratch and sniff experiences. It's like, what is even the point of this then? And what reaction were you trying to get out of it, that you're an artist? There's pretentious and then there's overly pretentious. The characters were forgettable. I did not attach myself to any one of them. They were flat, boring, and at worst underdeveloped. Caesar is the worst case of a tragic, rich character who is trying to sympathize with the middle class. His ambitions are confusing and his goals are never put to any test. He has time-stopping powers for some reason. I say some reason because he only ever seems to use them whenever it's convenient for him. Spoiler for this scene, if you give a shit, but at one point Caesar almost gets assassinated by some punk kid and he didn't use his time-stop powers at that moment. Like, maybe you can argue that he was just too slow to react, but in the start he was teetering to fall of his building and used his power there. Why didn't he use his power at that moment or any other moment that calls for it, like when he's getting arrested for a sex scandal? It's never explained, nor does the movie not care about it. Why should I care about this guy if all he does is be an eccentric egotist and coked-up millionaire? I did not care for Giancarlo's character. Aubrey Plaza plays a character literally named Wow Platinum. All these names sound like they were born out of a fanfiction. Shia LaBeouf, did not care. Jason Schwartzman, Lawrence Fishburne, Jon Voight. So many high-profile actors in this movie and they don't give a single convincing performance that makes me go, I like this. Nothing. It feels synthetic and disingenuous. All Lawrence Fishburne does is give exposition dumps. And while I am at it, the dialogue is just bloody dreadful. It is so bad. They repeat sentences more than 3 times. Some dialogue is just borrowed from other movies that I could be watching. It's trying to be over the top and narmy for the sake of it, and it comes across as try-hard and pretentious. Like the "Are you not entertained" line from Gladiator or "This is Sparta" from 300. It doesn't work. You're just trying too hard to sell a line that would potentially get memed, and it fails. Overall, Megalopolis is a waste of time. YMS was right. This is not worth watching even if you are curious. Do not watch this. This is one of the worst movies I have seen this year. The characters, the story, the world building and the presentation. It is all just soulless. That is a word that best describes this experience for me. It is soulless. It has nothing to say. No endearing or thought-provoking message. It's just a bunch of nothing. Francis Ford Coppola used to be one of the greatest filmmakers of a generation. The guy who made The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. To say age has been kind to him is an understatement. This is one of his worst films. Worse than his Robin Williams movie, but even then it's more entertaining to watch than this. That's all I've got. Again, do not watch this. It's a waste of your time as it was mine. 1 out of 10. Let us know that if comment below to like or dislike, subscribe, hit button notification. Thanks for watching, see you later, bye.